comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include CFP, Certified Financial Planner Professionals, committed to acting in their clients' best interests. Learn more at letsmakeaplan.org. And the listeners who support this NPR station.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided in part by Baptist Health and North Florida TPO.
Good morning. I'm Ann Schindler, and this is First Coast Connect. Today, big changes for a sleepy southern town. We ask the mayor of Palatka about the area's evolution from blue crabs to craft brews and historic B&Bs. Later in the program, how a small farm became a big deal in one of the fastest growing sectors in the tourism industry. But first, it's seeing downtown investment, riverfront development, and its name means Cowford. But no, it's not Jacksonville. Here to catch us up on what's happening in the changing Palatka is the town's mayor, Robbi Correa. Good morning, Mayor Correa.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So we were just discussing, you've been in the area about 20 years now, long enough, some would say, to sort of feel like a native. What was it about Palatka that drew you here? What did you know about it at the time that you moved, and what about what you thought you knew has proven to be true?
Honestly, when I discovered Palatka, which was frankly online, I knew nothing about it. And when I came here to visit, contemplating moving here, I just came over the bridge, the Memorial Bridge, and saw downtown and said, "This is where I want to be." Why it attracted me was its history, its architecture, its walkability, and cycling. I bicycle, so all of those things were right there, and I thought, "Cool, I have a place that I found that has everything I want in close proximity." So that's really what attracted me there. Um, Almost fast forward 20 years later. At that point, Palatka was kind of, sleepy town. It still is to some degree, but there's been a lot of things that have happened, a lot of exciting things, a lot of growth, but positive growth, in my opinion. And so we're seeing folks buy into downtown, restore the buildings, respect their architecture and history. And I think those are really positive outcomes.
And so, people who may not recognize your accent, you're from Rhode Island originally. You've got a background in education, special education. You also were an administrator, a government administrator for a number of years. Why did you want to run for office?
Yeah, that is a good question. So when I first, obviously that never entered my mind when I moved to Palatka and was settling in. I've restored several historic homes and love historic preservation. That was kind of my focus, and I got involved as a volunteer in the community with several organizations. And as time went on, several years ago, somebody, why don't you run for mayor? And I'm like, no, 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 no. But then this last time in 2022, when I was asked again, I thought about it and decided that if I was going to do it, it was kind of a now or never thing for me personally. So I ran and I won, which I wasn't sure that I anticipated or not, but I did win. So I was sworn in 2023, and here I am.
And so, what kind of mayor do you think you are? Have you been?
Gosh, I'm sure other people will judge that more than I. My goal and my intent in running was to help, as part of a team, move Palatka forward in a positive way to recognize how cool it is, how quaint it is, preserve the history that is extensive in the architecture. So have I been that? It's been a challenge because other things always kind of get in the way. But I think I've really tried to be that kind of mayor, tried to really show that I care about the community and want to see it grow and be vibrant in a positive way, and also try to be as honest and transparent and available for folks as I can be.
In terms of the area's reputation, I mean, there's certain things that have always drawn people to Palatka. I mean, the nearby ravine, State Gardens is beautiful, especially during azalea season, and a lot of people are familiar with that. The Blue Crab Festival, which is an annual event and hot as blazes, but really nice, on Memorial Day weekend. There's also a little bit of a reputation that the town has had for, it's had some issues with poverty, some issues with drugs. How do you think those challenges, how would you sort of place where they are currently?
The challenge is, yeah, economics, have been an issue for the city. We're a small city. We don't have a huge tax base, so that continues to present a challenge. We have been fortunate to receive awarded a number of grants over time that have allowed us to get a lot of things done, such as restoring and repairing our infrastructure. We had state-of-the-art infrastructure from the late 19th century, not so much now. So we've replaced miles of potable water lines and wastewater lines through the city, and it's a continuing project. Those kind of things we've been able to do with grant funding primarily. A lot of the building restoration, we're a community redevelopment agency area. So we've been able to use those funds in the downtown area to provide grants for property owners to restore the facades and some of the buildings to make them tenant ready or usable. So we have been relying on that. That is a challenge. As far as drugs, crime, honestly, is it there? Yes. Is it any more than any other community? I think per capita, actually, statistically, it's less than, say, St. Augustine, which people aren't aware of. We have a great police force, which also has a great partnership with the county sheriff's department, and they have been working hard to make Palatka a safer place for
Yeah.
everybody.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Palatka Mayor Robbi Correa about the challenges and the new development in that area. And you can join our conversation if you've got comments or questions. You can call us at 904-549-2937 or email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. So let's talk a little bit about what investment the city is seeing, because if people haven't been there in a minute, there are some new developments, some new projects, some new restaurants and facades that are sort of moving the city in the right direction if economic development and renaissance is what you're going for. Tell us a little bit about what's been new in the downtown area.
There's a lot of new and exciting things. So for folks that haven't been there, we have several new hotels. We have a traditional B&B and several Airbnbs. The traditional B&B is in the South Historic District in this beautiful Queen Anne Victorian. Actually, it's my neighbor. So that's been a big draw for people coming in. We have a lot of folks that visit for the ecotourism. We're a designated trail town by Department of Environmental Protection. We were the 6th designated trail town, so we're a trail hub for bicycling, kayaking, and hiking, and some equestrian as well. So that's brought and drawn a lot of people in. We also have a huge arts community. So Florida School of the Arts is in Palatka, the State Arts College, and we have a lot of local artists. So we often have gallery openings. We have plays, theater performances. Those have been big draws. And just the walkability of our downtown and the improved appearance. So as I mentioned earlier, all the infrastructure downtown has been completed. St. John's, the main downtown commercial corridor, has been paved. And after the first of the year, we're going to be replacing sidewalks and streetscape downtown. So a lot of people are seeing that. We have a brewery that opened in the historic Coca-Cola building.
Azalea Brewery, right?
Azalea City Brewing Company. That happened about 4 years ago. There's actually they actually have the brewery and tap room in the what was the warehouse portion. The Coke building itself has still not been restored in sign. So there is going to be a Palatka holiday Christmas market in there that is going to run from right after our big Christmas parade. We have a huge Christmas parade downtown that's been going on for 100 years, and that brings in a lot of people, thousands of people. That holiday market is going to open that evening and continue right through the 24th of December. We also have a number of other festivals that are going on. We have a Dado Pepper Festival. We have a folk music festival. We will have the Porch Fest in the South Historic District coming up in December. So there are numerous events. We always have things going on, a wine stroll in October. So certainly if people want to come and explore, we have a lot to offer.
Do you think that Palatka can be a viable alternative to people, visitors to St. Augustine, which I think a lot of people feel has maxed out in terms of its just the number of people there. It is a very crowded destination at a lot of times of the year, particularly over the holiday season. Do you think that Palatka can benefit from that sense of St. Augustine as being a little bit overcrowded?
Oh, I believe so. I believe that's already happening, and it's kind of a shameless plug. But I do own a market downtown, and oftentimes, particularly through the Festival of Lights, we get a lot of people that go to St. Augustine to see that, but then they come over to Palatka and stay for a day or two and do things in Palatka, go to Riverfront Gardens, State Park, go to our restaurants. We've had some great farm-to-table restaurants open, such as Velchoff's Corner and Magnolia Cafe, and they come over here and they, and visit us because they are overwhelmed by the crowds in St. Augustine and really enjoy it. And I see that happening more frequently
Yeah,
as
we should
time
say
goes
that your
on.
store is called Lemon Street Mercantile, and it's
Lemon Street Market in Mercantile. It's at 715 St. John's Avenue,
yeah.
right downtown.
And you sell sort of repurposed
I sell it.
historic.
Yeah, it's kind of eclectic. So I sell local and regional products. I have vendors that rent space. I sell antiques and collectibles. I sell specialty foods, Mayday ice cream. It's an assortment of things
Yeah.
in a 1956 building.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to the Palatka mayor, and you can join our conversation by calling us at 904-549-2937. We've got a call from Denise in Mayport. Good morning, Denise. Go ahead.
Hi, Mayor. Are you familiar with the ship, a tall ship called the Amara Z that has been docked at your city dock and has plans to host some musical entertainment in the future if things work out? What can you tell us about the Amara Z tall ship?
Absolutely, I'm familiar with the Marazzi. Bob Griffith, who is the captain in Palatka, is a good friend of mine, he and his wife. So I've toured the ship when it's been docked. I'm super excited about the possibility of it, excuse me, being docked periodically. My understanding from Bob is that it's going to dock there and then circulate between that and Mayport and Green Cove Springs. But we are super excited to have. They've already they did a couple of concerts. It's back up in Mayport now, as you know. But a couple of concerts, and there was a great response and turnout. They were docked at our city dock, so I'm looking forward to that. It's a really cool venue. I'm sure you've been on it. It was originally constructed to be an entertainment venue, and it's just super exciting to have it there.
Yeah. We also have a message from Ricardo just saying that Palatka's high school has a great program to identify and support talented students. That's a great sign for Palatka's future when a community invests in kids and education. Success follows. So I want to ask you as well about some transition, I guess you could call it, at the city manager's office in Palatka, which has been a little bit of a revolving door in the last couple of years. There's been, I think most recently, a city manager removed and then sort of reinstated under investigation just in the last couple weeks. But prior to that, about a year before, another city manager left under investigation, and another interim city manager before him resigned under investigation. What's going on with that office? Why are those problems persisting? Is there a through line? And what role as mayor do you have in all of that?
I honestly can't discuss it because there are personnel issues and an ongoing investigation. I really can't discuss it in any depth. Obviously, the commission supervises the city manager. That's obviously includes myself and four other individuals. So I really can't go into any detail about it in fairness to everybody involved.
Sure. I mean, without getting into the specifics, what do you tell the members of the community when they ask you going forward, is this an office? I mean, I think that there are all kinds of turnovers in small towns when it comes to various positions, and that happens. But I think that the question about conduct in that office, what's being done to screen these people, what is going to happen to that position? I guess, what do you tell constituents? Surely you get questions.
Basically what I've told you, but I think that it is a difficult position. You have to answer to five different people. You have a myriad of employees with different personalities. It really is a difficult job, and I think the job retention for that particular position, I think the lifespan is like 5 years on average, and I think it's growing less and less. Social media, people have a lot of feedback, comments. I just it's just been a difficult time and a difficult position, but I certainly hope we can stabilize and have some continuity and move our city forward. So we'll see what happens. I can't predict that right
All
now.
right. We've got a call from Cliff in Riverside. Good morning, Cliff. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, I like what you're saying about restoration, and want you to think about that with the Rodman Dam and restore that river, because currently the water is submerging 20 springs, and that's kind of like an ecological treasure for Florida, all of Florida. People flock to those springs. You'd make a lot of money, but just from ecotourism, and it would help to restore. We've got a lot of salinity in the St. Johns River, and we need fresh water flowing into it. So just getting that dam removed would be a real benefit. Also, I know that there's going to be like a lot of pushback from the bass industry, but my grandfather ran that river a lot, and he made detailed journals about how good and big the bass were, and that was before the Rodman Dam. So I mean, probably even improve. And then you could have more trails in the forest that's submerged. So just really need to get that dam gone. It's part of that failed Cross Florida Barge project anyway. And I'd like to see 20 new natural springs in my state.
Yeah, Cliff makes a good point there, Mayor. I mean, obviously, the future of the Rodman Reservoir and the Kirkpatrick Dam there has been an ongoing issue and came up again this year. It actually, in terms of removing the dam, seemed to get farther than it has most years in the legislature. A plan to kind of to begin the process of removal was ultimately vetoed by the governor. But, there are people who say it would restore natural springs. It would help the St. Johns River, as Cliff said, from a salinity standpoint. And, that reservoir is not a natural presence. But fishermen love it. And sports fishermen are a big part of the economic world in Putnam County, and no small political influence because of that. So, first of all, where do you stand on that issue?
So I can tell you that the city has not taken a stand. However, personally, I am in favor of the Rodman Dam being removed, of reuniting the rivers. I was just at a Ravine Gardens conference about it with the riverkeeper with Lisa. I've been clear and transparent that I'm in favor of it. I kayak. And historically, I like to see things return to the way they are, the natural kind of order of things. So I am in favor of its removal. That doesn't always garner much friendship for me in some circles, but I've always said that, and I stand by that I feel that's important to our community, and to the health of the rivers.
All right. We've got a question from Demetrius in Fernandina Beach. Good morning, Demetrius. Go ahead.
Good morning. How are you?
Wonderful.
Good,
Go
thank
ahead
you.
with your question.
I have a question for the mayor because I'm a biker with my kids, and I usually do the East Gainesville to Hawthorne Trail, which is a 5-star trail through the Paynes Prairie and everything. There's a segment between Hawthorne and Palatka that I don't think it exists anymore, but from Palatka to St. Augustine, there is a trail. So when is this segment going to be built, and is it planned to build it soon?
Good question, Demetrius.
It's a good question, and I don't know what soon means in this case. A lot of it obviously has to do with financing and money. We certainly want that trail connection to go straight through from St. Augustine to the Lake Butler Trail. We want that whole connection piece that's now missing. Honestly, I know it's in the plans for DEP, but I don't know what that means in terms of timelines.
There's not a connection currently between Hawthorne and Palatka?
There are sections missing. There are, and you can end up riding on road for a portion of it, but
Gotcha.
most of it is done. But there are still these sections that have not been completed. The same with to St. Augustine. It pretty much stops in the Vermont Heights area and doesn't continue into the city itself, and that piece needs to continue as well.
Okay. I want to ask you, we were talking about the river and, what impact restoring that river flow might have, for instance, on the bass population. And that leads to this question because there's a lot of discussion, speculation, questions, and concerns around this proposed Bass Pro Resort in Willaca, which is a little distance from Palatka, but part of your area and would certainly have major impacts. So this is something that's still, I think, somewhat under wraps, but there's been thousands of acres of land acquired by the Bass Pro CEO, and land that actually is comparable to all of the Disney theme parks combined, which is amazing. I mean, it is a huge area of land on the river. And so what are you hearing, first of all, about this project? Are you certain that that is what's happening and moving forward? And what concerns are you hearing from your constituents?
I, I'm probably hearing the same thing as everybody else, which is not a lot. As you said, it's been kept under wraps. We know that Bass Pro, that Mr. Morris has bought up a lot of that land right on the river. I think people speculate he has resort in Branson, Missouri, that it's going to be comparable to that. But again, that's all speculation. I hear the same rumors. I've never talked to anybody from Bass Pro, so I know no more than the general public. I believe if it were to happen, obviously it's going to have a spillover effect. We're just a little bit north of Willatka, so certainly it's going to have an impact, and we're all sitting on the river. But I don't really know a lot, and honestly, people in the community, as in Palatka within the city limits, don't ask a lot about that. That's not something I've ever, I think, can recall having any questions about.
Really?
Yeah, which is interesting.
So, what do you get questions about primarily? I mean, what are the main concerns of the folks who live in your town?
It's more of those basic things, roads, water, those kind of things, costs, are our taxes going up and down? How much is it going to cost us to live here? Those kind of, I think, universal things. The other big one, of course, is those folks that are unhomed. How is that going to be addressed? And that's a large issue.
Is there a large unhoused population?
I think a lodge by Palatka standards, which is obviously not the same as other locations, but it's been a cause of concern for some people.
Are there any resources for homeless people?
That's part of the bigger problem. We have limited resources and services. We have some, but not to the extent that probably people need and honestly deserve to have for themselves. So again, we're like every other community, we're grappling with that issue, and it's not just a citywide, it's a countywide, it's a nationwide, and so statewide. So yeah, that is a concern of people when they see folks. Whether it's 2 or 20, people get concerned.
We discussed a little bit about, spillover from St. Augustine, which could be a benefit for your downtown area. Those two adjacent counties, St. Johns and Putnam counties, are very often at the very, opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to various metrics of quality of life. And, that includes income, health, education. It's often surprising for two adjacent counties to be so diametrically opposed in terms of outcomes. How is that? How do you experience that dichotomy? And do you think that that is going to change in a measurable way as the county grows, as it starts to see more investment and development?
Yeah, I'm just going to assume that it's going to change, given that it's already changing as we speak. This school district, obviously, which is its own entity, and we had a bond approved, has spent a lot of money and is spending a lot of money on constructing new schools. QI Roberts, the high school, the Cambridge program, has had a national reputation. So I think it is changing. It's a slow change. It's a big investment, but it will change. Quality of life, if no offense to my neighbors in St. John's and St. Augustine, but I find the quality of life for me better in where I live, where I'm not dealing with crowds and traffic and people know everybody and say hello. And it's a friendly small town atmosphere. And I find that a higher quality of life. We also have the most operating farms in the Northeast region. So again, that's important to us, and I don't think we want to lose that entirely because we watch our neighbors in St. John's and see how many farms. And I understand why people do it. When you have to retire, you have to have a way to pay for that, and so they sell out their farmland. But we want to save and keep as much of our lands conservation-wise as we can in farms.
So if somebody is thinking about visiting Palatka, is there a day, a time, an event that you would tell them to sort of shape it around if they wanted to get the best possible
Hmm.
experience as recommended by the mayor?
um, Gosh, that's a tough question. Don't I would suggest not coming on Mondays because a lot of things are closed downtown. But I think you can get a lot of great experiences. There are always events and festivals. We have two different sites, websites, and they also have apps and social media. Visit Palatka, which is put on by an organization and a company, and then Visit Putnam, which is our chamber site. You can get a lot of information about different events going on. But Ravine Gardens State Park is always open. We are on the State Mural Trail, and we have close to 25 murals in downtown Palatka, and they all have QR codes, so you can do a self-guided tour with the brochure where you can learn about those murals and the history of them. Those are always available. You can always kayak. There are kayak rentals. There is a tour available. You can always bicycle. So, those things are always open, and downtown's open. So please come on over and see us.
All right. I want to take one last call before we wrap. Rhea in Palatka. Good morning, Rhea. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning, and hello, Mayor. Great job.
Good morning,
I
Rhea.
have a question. About the bass industry that dominates the whole waterfront and park often. And other than them buying gas and hotels and maybe food, what do they throw in on the finances for the Palatka City? That's my question. Thanks.
Thank you. Certainly, they contribute to the bed tax, the tourist development tax that we have
Through hotel stays.
through hotel stays, lodging stays. The Chamber of Commerce is your best source for data on that as to what else they contribute. Frankly, the city itself doesn't keep that data. We do rely on the Chamber and the Tourist Development Council to keep that data.
And I guess would we expect to see more from the bass industry than from any other group that either Bike Week or anything like that, other than tourist dollars?
Yeah, it's historically been that way, but I think that is changing. There's certainly an effort, not that we want them to leave or not have their tournaments there, but there's certainly an effort by the county and the city to attract other type of events, and that is happening. We also have a historic golf course, a Donald Ross design golf course, and there are a lot of tournaments there that also help bring in revenue to the city and the county. There are cycling events, bicycle. We get a lot of folks bicycle through, and they spend a lot of revenue and money and stay downtown for a period of time before they continue on. Particularly that San Diego to St. Augustine cycling experience that people have. I've talked to many of them.
Yeah, the
So
old Spanish Trail, is that what
yeah,
that is? Yeah.
and a lot of people. It's pretty amazing how many folks do that.
It's astonishing distance, St.
And it's
Augustine
an
to San Diego.
astonishing distance, and I've had groups of them come in to the store, and some of them have been from Ireland, some of them have been from Canada, some have been from Western and Midwestern states. So it's astonishing to me, A, that they ride that distance, and B, where they are coming from. So I think we're trying to be more diverse on those different events that come up, and that's certainly happening. We have a 240Z regional event coming where they're going to be staying for like a week.
I don't know what that is.
The vehicle, those 240Zs that
I guess I ought to.
the
I'm
Datsun
sorry.
240.
Okay.
Anyway, they're coming, and they're having this big event with their vehicles, and they're all meeting in Palatka as a
Fun.
regional event. So that will be fun. So these are just unusual but different things that are starting to happen. So it won't just be totally bass fishing.
Right. All right. Well, Mayor Robbi Correa, it's nice to meet you. Thank you for coming up to do this segment today. We appreciate it, and good luck with everything.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
All right. Up next, a Northside Farms plan for fall includes a pumpkin patch, live music, and sleepovers. Welcome back. Waupican, as a 4-acre rice farm, has grown into a 330-acre agrotourism destination. Here to talk about what's new this fall is the farm's founder and manager, Scott Meyer at Congaree and Penn, which we should note is a station underwriter. Scott, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Ann.
So it has been quite a ride for this farm in terms of where it's come in the last decade plus. It's for people who don't know where Congaree and Penn is, it's on the Little Trout River. It's out on Old Kings Road, about 20 or 25 minutes northwest of downtown Jacksonville. Yeah. So remind us about its beginnings, because you started it back, I think, in 2014, and the goal was to make rice for sake. Is that?
Yeah, that's true. And We planted the first crop of rice in March 2014, harvested it later that fall in September, and we're kind of looking at producing our own sake. Our goal was always to be a destination place for people to come and get away from the city, just enjoy nature. And we started having chefs find out we were growing and milling rice, and we kind of made a pivot. We took our first rice crop and started milling it for restaurants around Northeast Florida, and still doing that today. You'll find it featured on menus like in St. Augustine at the Floridian with Jeff and Jeannie McNally and a lot of great chefs from even around the whole country now. So
And what is the advantage of being able to mill or custom mill rice for somebody as opposed to just the rice that we buy off the shelves at the grocery store?
it's really all about oxidation and the lack thereof. It's a matter of, most places aren't selling wine that they opened, last month. So we're milling rice every week of the year and getting it out to those that need a great rice product.
And what variations do they seek when somebody is saying, "Hey, I want you to mill my rice to these specifications?" Like, what are they looking for, and what do the different varieties provide?
Sure. So we produce a brown rice, which is just going to be removing the hull from the rice. Also, we'll polish it to a white rice. And then from there, that's where things get interesting. We make a broken rice or a Midlands. We also stone mill it to a rice grit, and we produce a fine flour as well as a coarse ground rice flour as well.
And so you began to see some demand for this. You, pivoted, as you say, and so this small operation has grown in terms of the quantities that you're producing, but you've also really diversified in terms of the stuff that you grow there, the size of the property that you're actively farming. Tell us a little bit about that expansion.
Yeah, so it really started with the rice. The goal was always to have people at the farm. We were first business to business, just selling to restaurants, but we rapidly began going out to places like the Riverside Arts Market, where you can still find us every Saturday, engaging with the community there, and eventually doing farm tours. We knew that people were going to want to have a few things if they're going to make a long drive out to the farm, restrooms, and then once they're there for a while, maybe they're getting hungry. So we've just been diversifying over the last 11 years to where we offer dining every week from Friday through Sunday in the restaurant. We're doing tourism, things like that. And we've got a lot of new things with the farm store opening up in November. And we also are doing overnight lodging, which is also going to be kicking off in mid November, which is going to be a really great way to experience the property.
I want to talk more about the November stuff because you have and October. I mean, this fall you have a whole bunch of new things starting, including the overnight stuff, which I think is really exciting. But I wanted to ask you about the fine dining component because it's not just. I mean, you do have food trucks there for
hmm
people when they're visiting, and they can kind of go that route. But you have this really popular, very often reserved and high end dining experience. How did that take shape? Because it's a very elevated experience in a market that doesn't have a ton of places like that.
Yeah, so, this would be what I'd call our big COVID era pivot. So we opened up the reservation dining July 2020. Going into, the end of 2019 for the past few years before that, we'd been partnering with Edible Northeast Florida and hosting guest chefs who were former Rice clients from around the country and putting on a really unique dining series for the community. Then also offering, with the founding of our winery where we produce farm cider, we started wanting to offer casual food for people that are coming out to taste the different cider offerings. But then with the closure of the restaurant in March 2020, and to us then finally getting kind of reinvigorated and saying, we can't have a bunch of strangers eating off the same plate during a pandemic. We started doing, small, spaced out, outdoor reservation dining, and we've never looked back. We've been releasing a brand new menu 4 times a year with the seasons. And then just in 2023, we started going back to some of our event type activities. So we keep adding new things and changing a little bit, like our chef's tastings we do out in the vineyard a couple Fridays a month. Those are already sold out for October, but you can look for new dates on a 30-day basis. That's all booked through resi.com. But our newest thing is our Thursday night. We're doing a supper club that's going to be a little bigger. We're the chef's tastings just for 16 guests. This will be up to about 30, and it's going to be a nice intimate experience. Get out to the farm on a Thursday evening, enjoy the property, have some hors d'oeuvres, and have a nice 3-course meal from our chef team. So that's made up of Steve Crawford, Andrew Blanton, Chase Oakland. We also have an amazing pastry chef, Laura Dolan, and Carrie Rogers just joined our team. She was there prior and just rejoined the team this past summer. So a lot of great folks out at the property putting out some amazing food. And, really like the main goal is to support a lot of other local farms. So we've got all of our chicken comes from Charlie at Southern Acre Farm. We're working with Quincy Cattle out of Chiefland, Florida, and just a lot of great purveyors to put out some really unique dining experiences for folks.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Scott Meyer of Congaree and Penn, and you can join our conversation by calling 904-549-2937 or emailing firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. The community of, purveyors, people who are living and farming and doing a farm to table type experience or effort has grown in this area, and you guys have been a big part of that. You've gotten some national attention. You've been written up. You've been mentioned in the New York Times and Southern Living. I think that Garden and Gun has also profiled the farm. So, how has that affected business? How has that, helped the overall farm to table community here in the Northeast?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's been, putting a spotlight on Jacksonville and that we are actually doing some of these unique things that you might not think of happening here. But additionally, I think that, oftentimes, if it's about a specific product or something like that, you might see like some elevated sales more like on an online basis. But really, I think it kind of continues building like the amount of people that have heard of, Congaree and Penn, but also that are kind of aware that there's something really unique like this in the city of Jacksonville.
Agrotourism has also reached a sort of, I don't know if it's quite at a fever pitch, but it seems like you opened and rode that wave
Hmm.
pretty successfully. This new initiative that you have this fall with, some living spaces that people can rent out and stay overnight. Where did that idea originate? Is it something that you personally have participated in at other farms? And what is it going to look like for people who stay there?
Sure. So, with the overnight stay, the first thing I remember is hosting these really small groups for like a walking tour back in, let's say it must have been like 2015. And, and speaking with people at all these farmers markets, I used to personally work three every weekend, for a number of years from St. Johns County up into Nassau and Fernandina. And everyone wanted, I listened to what they might like. And I think when we have guests coming to dine in the restaurant from Orlando, and then they're having to turn around and go back home again. And I've seen a variety of properties. I've been able to visit a few, offering lodging, and it just kind of it's that next step in kind of the farm experience, being able to get out there, not feel like you're in a rush, and have the ability to come join us for a great meal, wake up on the farm in the morning, enjoy, the property before other guests are arriving, be able to go on a walk on some of the trails, observing the wading birds, other migratory waterfowl, wild turkeys. Just, it's a beautiful place to be. And it's something unique that we're offering and we're really excited about. So the actual bungalows are located in what's we call the oak hammock. So all those bookings can be done at congareeandpenn.com/the hammock. Um, but the hammock is really this kind of treasured place that my wife and I, all of the farm team, we've been working on making into a beautiful space for the past, 10 years. Um, at the end of the day, we've been able to host a lot of canine field days back there where we bring the community of dog lovers in Jacksonville out to the farm for an off leash adventure and letting them run about. And we've been, working on it. And they're going to be these one bedroom, kind of really unique, kind of sort of modern bungalows where they've got a little kitchenette. So you're not feeling like you've got to run out in the morning, but you can make yourself breakfast and just enjoy peace and quiet of being out on the farm.
Describe some of the things that are on the farm because there's, in addition to the agricultural and the crop work that you're doing, there's also a lot of animals to interact with. And there's tours that you do, like tractor drives. What are some of the components that people experience when they're out there?
Sure. So, beyond, we're primarily a specialty fruit and nut farm if you kind of are looking at it from more of the agricultural classification. So we've got everything from olives to the mayhaw, which is an indigenous fruit we've been growing. Figs, persimmons are what's being harvested right now. So there's opportunities for you pick for a variety of those crops. And then we also have some fun farm animals. It's nothing commercial. We're not a farm producing any protein. However, we do have some goats and some zebu cattle, which are these mini cows. We've got muchacha and huckleberry and some really cute cattle like that. And then a lot of guinea fowl, a couple emus out there, and a lot of chickens
Some
for
goats.
eggs and some goats as well. So that's more kind of for fun. We also do, what's called a goat greet. So for small groups, they can book it, and one of our staff will take them down, and you can get into the paddock and get to meet the goats and learn about them and answer any questions that you might have about our other animals and things like that. We also offer just a regular farm tour, which you'll go on a covered wagon throughout the property and learn more about the crop production, the history of the farm, and what's going on there. And then we also do just a sunset cruise, which is just a farm tour, but you're just out there cruising at sunset, maybe enjoying a nice cider and just the peace and quiet out on the farm while you're not having to do all the walking. You're just cruising on the wagon. So,
We haven't really talked about the origin of the farm. I mean, you and your wife, Lindsay, run the farm. It was a project that you began together. Um, Neither of you, well, I'm not sure kind of what your farming background is. I think that maybe Lindsay had some family that did some farming.
yeah, so Lindsay grew up on a farm on a little town in New Mexico called Anthony, just west of El Paso. And her grandfather began, lettuce, onions, cotton, a lot of really row crops out there. He's, later pivoted to doing a lot of pecan production. I grew up more in ornamental trees right there in Dinsmore. My father ran the Big Tree Company, and we grew live oaks and magnolias and things like that. And we actually have just gotten back into that. I'm producing live oaks now that are being planted up in Nassau County with the Crane Island community up there doing some reforestation. And then we're also running our outdoor design division off the farm where we're doing commercial and residential landscape construction. We've got a great designer, Shield Simpson, out of Mississippi State University, and we've got a lot going on up there.
How big of an operation is it? It seems like there's just so many, it's so diversified. I don't know how you keep track of all of those elements.
Yeah, so I tried to start, diversifying a lot in the beginning, and then I really tried to stop diversifying quite as much, but some things kind of came naturally. We were able to reacquire a piece of what was the Big Tree Company back in the 80s, back in 2018, and kind of that spurred us to first we were just doing tree wholesaling, but now that we're going into doing complete design and landscape construction, it's just kind of something I grew up in and kind of am revisiting as a nice kind of balance for the business on the farm.
So how many employees do you have? Who runs all of this? Is it
It's
you
about
and Lindsay or
myself, Lindsay, Eric Gebicke, who is our chief operating officer and heads up a lot of the landscape construction components, but also contributes in a variety of factors. But we're roughly about 50 employees and growing. And, I think over the next, 2 to 3 years, we may be, up to about 60 or so. It's a lot, but we've got an amazing team. We've got people that have been with us for a long time and people that started last week. So, we're always, it's
continuing
all
to
about
grow?
people, all about having good people and good culture and a great team. And we're always striving to achieve that. So.
Well, Scott Meyer, it's the season kicks off Fall on the Farm Grounds. It starts this weekend, September 26th. It runs through November 2nd, and you can find all this information at congareeandpenn.com/fall. Scott, thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here. And I won't forget to say we have the new menu for the fall menu on Friday.
Oh, awesome. So good food to check out. Thank you for being here. Up next, from geocaching to stand-up paddleboard yoga, this weekend offers a chance to support a network of 7 state parks.
Life South Community Blood Centers, providing blood and patient services to the local hospitals, serving patients in this community. Donating blood with Life South helps save lives. More at lifesouth.org to find a blood drive near you.
The Jacksonville Children's Chorus is holding auditions for kids in rising 2nd through 12th grades. No audition required for younger kids. Rehearsals in Duval, Clay, and St. Johns counties, with tuition scholarships available. Information at jackschildrenschorus.org.
In a small Florida beach town, the storm is coming. As Atlantic Beach prepares to evacuate, a few stay behind. From debut director Alexandra Simpson, No Sleep Till. One night, one storm, no turning back. Join us Tuesday, September 30th at WJCT Studios. Doors open at 6:30, film at 7, followed by Q&A with the director. Tickets at wjct.org/film.
The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals is one of the most conservative courts in the country, but it hasn't always been that way.
There was a lot of instrumental decisions in favor of civil rights for Black people that it was kind of known for. So in some ways, its reputation is kind of flipped.
I'm Meghna Chakrabarty, the legacy of the Fifth Circuit, past and present. That's on the next On Point.
Today at 11 on WJCT News 89.9.
Health Secretary Kennedy's handpicked vaccine committee met last week. Now health advocates and vaccine skeptics are scratching their heads. It voted to stop encouraging COVID vaccines, tabled a decision about hepatitis B immunizations for babies, and more. For the latest installment of our series, In Good Health, what these recommendations mean for vaccine policy in the U.S.
Country, and there is a cluster of 7 parks right at the border of Duval and Nassau County. An event this weekend offers a chance to explore and support those parks. And here to tell us about it is Fred Richards, Executive Director of the Timucuan Parks Foundation. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
We're also joined by Sherry Hare, Event Coordinator with Friends of Talbot Island State Park. Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
So this weekend is actually the 6th annual Talbot Tidewater celebration. It's part of an observance of National Public Lands Day. Yeah, so this is an annual event. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, National Public Lands Day, Sherry.
National Public Lands Day just is what it's saying. It gives anyone the opportunity to come to any of the national parks, state parks, city parks that are hosting events to be able to do any kind of volunteer work. We will have an opportunity for anyone who wants to walk up and volunteer. There's a lot of opportunities, although we do bring our own volunteers. The National Public Lands Day does have an excellent website where they get out the word so that anyone who is in the area can come and participate.
So, Fred, what is the role of the Timucuan Parks Foundation? This is sort of a private organization, nonprofit organization that helps support the parks?
Yeah, we're actually the Friends group. We actually support the National Park Service. We support the city of Jacksonville and also the National Park Service, the city of Jacksonville, and the state of Florida. So we're the support group and Friends group for that organization. Our mission has always been to preserve, promote, and enhance Jacksonville's natural areas. And this is a great opportunity at this event to celebrate the natural spaces of Talbot Island State Parks and the Timucuan Preserves.
It seems like a lot of it is focused on events for kids, things for kids to participate in, and a really like a bunch of diverse opportunities. One of the things is an anglers contest, which is
I'm glad you mentioned that.
It sounds cool because I think, I mean, you have to register, it's free, but the kids actually get like a free fishing rod if they're
they sure do. So it's the Junior Ranger Angler Fishing Clinic. And this is actually supported through the National Park Foundation. They provided a grant to us so we could do this. And it's also supported by our friends at the National Park Service who help us with this event. So this clinic is going on for ages 6 to 17. If they were to register, the first 75 children that register actually get a free rod and reel. They get to go home with a free rod and reel, thanks to the National Park Foundation.
And they learn some of the basics, right?
They do. They learn about the fish species. They learn about casting, knot tying, ethical angling, and also a little bit of historical value of the Gula Geechee fishing heritage. So they get to learn about that too, about Jacksonville's unique fishing heritage that we have with that group.
And Sherry, there's also, I understand, some sort of mock rescues of manatees. Is that just sort of show kids just sort of the challenges they face, or how do those work?
Well, we have a lot of support from FWC. And one of the events that one of the exhibitors will be the marine biologist for the marine rescue. They bring either a truck or a van that has all of the equipment that they need for their rescues. One of the things that we have to do is place them in an area where they have access to leave right away in case they receive a call.
Okay.
But what they do, it's really very interesting because they have rubber manatees and dolphins. They have the blankets that they would put them down, that they would move them onto in a rescue situation. They have the straps and how to get them under. And so the kids and adults are out there and they're helping learn how to work together to get the straps underneath to be able to get them onto the lift. They have sprayers where they've got to keep the manatees and the dolphins hydrated. So, yeah, they really enjoy that a lot. And one of the things that the Marine Rescue needs to get across is that you don't touch any animal that's stranded or injured, but you immediately call their overall hotline is Wildlife Alert, and we're lucky to have the Wildlife Alert trailer there as well.
Oh.
So we'll have FWC law enforcement that will talk to adults and children about anywhere, any environment that you're in Florida, if an animal is in distress, that
And
you can
we
go through
mentioned,
them.
we mentioned geocaching. There's also guided nature hikes. There's birding, and something that I doesn't sound terribly relaxing to me. It's called SUP Yoga. Stands for Stand Up Paddleboard Yoga. So you can learn how to do that as well. It does sound like a great full day of stuff, though. Folks wanting to go, Fred, where do they get more information?
They can actually go to the Talbot Tidewater website, and to register, there is a Talbot Tidewater at gmail.com if you want to register for that fishing activity as well. But there's going to be so many opportunities for the families, and there's going to be music and food. But one of the things I wanted to mention about the mock dolphin and manatee rescues is November is Manatee Awareness Month, so we want to be very cognizant, and that's one of the things they want to teach the public about is we got to be very careful when we're out there on our boats. It's the number one, boat strikes are the number one threat to that population, that mammal.
All right. Well, it'll be a great event. Fred Richards, Sherry Hare, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. You can find a link on our website as well to information about the event.
Thanks so
Thank you
much.
so much.
All right. And that's our program. Thank you for listening. If you have comments or questions, you can send either to First Coast Connect at WJCT.org. Please join us tomorrow when we sit down with Tom Coughlin, a Super Bowl winning coach that you may well be familiar with. He's turning his focus to food insecurity for families who are living with childhood cancers. I'm Ann Schindler. You've been listening to First Coast Connect on WJCT News 89.9.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.
The North Florida TPO is committed to shaping our transportation future. We're focused on planning, funding, clean fuels, and new technologies for a vibrant, connected community. Learn more at northfloridatpo.com. Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com.
The Jacksonville Children's Chorus is holding auditions for kids in rising 2nd through 12th grades. No audition required for younger kids. Rehearsals in Duval, Clay, and St. Johns counties with tuition scholarships available. Information at jackschildrenschorus.org.